Okay, so let's go ahead and finalize our block out. Now, the first thing that I want to do is, whoa, my camera is really fast. The first thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and like improve just like in general over here this part. So I had like an idea of like a natural stone type part. So let's just go ahead and find some reference for that. So if you just go to Google Images, I just went for like a large natural stone part, and I just need to kind of like know the shapes. So it is up to you like what to find, and I don't know, is this one working? Because it doesn't feel like the image is working. Yeah, you know what, this can already work. Let's have a quick look if there's something else. I just want to basically know the shapes so that I can model them. Japan. Who knows, maybe that will do something. Okay. I think, you know what, because it doesn't need to be that special, I'm just going to go ahead and use this one. And basically what I will do is I will go ahead and use the spline tools inside of our modeling tools to just draw out a few of these shapes, and then we can take it from there. So let's go back into our modeling tools. And then over here, if you go for the poly extrude tool, that one is really easy to... Okay, that was confusing. That one is really easy to basically draw out some shapes. I'm just going to do it here because this grid is a bit confusing. So you can just go ahead and go for, I think freehand was fine. If you then just click once, you can see that this will just draw out a line. So what I can do is I can kind of like, oh wait, let me just undo that because I want to turn off snapping. So enable snapping, let's turn it off. So now I'm just going to basically draw out generally these shapes. It doesn't need to be perfect, I just need some general shapes that I can use. So let's go ahead and just like do this. And then I sometimes click like multiple times just to make something feel more rounder, like over here. And then you can see that this is working totally fine over here. And then it will also extrude it out, as you can see, by moving it up. And there we go. So I can also see that now the grid has is a bit confused because it is trying to paint it on the 0 axis over here. And of course we set this to 100 because it was a terrain. So just keep that in mind. But we can now go to our poly edit and we can just like kind of push this down over here. And actually what I want to do is this one. Just gonna move it out a bit. There we go, see? Simple shape. So basically what we can do with this is we can go ahead and go back to our poly extrude. Now, in terms of like the snapping, so if we turn on the snapping and maybe we only press snap to surface, it might be able to snap it properly, but we will have to kind of like see. Now here, see, it still does not, unfortunately. And I guess setting the offset to 100 would also not work. No, it would just be confusing. That's no problem. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Let's just turn off snapping. And instead, let's just go ahead and just go in here and start painting our next one. So I just did this one. Now let's go ahead and do this one and just do like a few. So let's see. This one kind of like goes like this. It's really confusing now, actually. Because normally I don't do this at, normally I do this at like 0, 0, 0 because I don't actually often use a terrain. That's what makes this a little bit confusing. But it should be fine. It's more like one of those things like, yes, you can go in and fix them, but is it really worth your effort to fix them? Like, I can go in, I can hide my terrain, I can then place them, I can then unhide my terrain, all that stuff. Or I can just do this. And what I also like to do is I like to give them like slightly different thicknesses over here. I just feel like that would look quite nice if we add some variation to that. Now the next one, I'm just gonna also already like do like a classic one, which I'm not, for which I do not have any reference. But it's just gonna be like a bit of like a round shape over here. There we go. And then I want to do Probably one or two more, so let's just go ahead and do the next one, which goes like this, and then it goes up and down a bit. And something like this. Okay. And let's do one more. But I feel like, let's see if there's maybe like, yeah, let's just do one of those. So just once again, like looking at my reference on my other screen. I don't want to make too many. I just want to reuse them because, of course, these ones we will need to make by hand later on. So that's why I don't want to spend too much time, because it's not such an important feature of our environment. Hey, why don't you? Why do you not work? That was strange. Let's try again. It did not. Now it works. Okay, awesome. So we got these. I'm just gonna set them all to 100. And then go to my poly edit and then push them down. Over here. This one also 100. Poly edit. Push it down. And let's push it down. There we go, that should do the trick. Okay, cool. Now let's have a look. First of all, what I will do with these is the classic thing, which is adding a white material to them over here. And now it's just like a matter of basically just place them around however you want. So let's see, if I just do like one, like over here, and maybe like another one. So of course make it so that people can pretty much like walk on it, but they don't have to walk on it like absolutely perfectly or something like that. So I'm just gonna go for maybe like, yeah, let's say something like this. I'm gonna scale this one down a bit. And so rotate this one over here. Also, one thing that I kind of like to do sometimes whenever I make parts like this, if you just give me 1 second, let me just finish placing this one, because I think at this point we are outside of the camera anyway, is to sometimes create another one that's like thicker and just have it kind of like sitting on like the top, kind of like cutting pieces off. Something like this, but I don't know if it will look good. It's literally just gonna have to see. Yeah, so if I just do this, but maybe not at like the very end, maybe, yeah, let's make it like a little bit thinner. Let's just kind of like over here start cutting off some of these shapes. I will grab this one and I will move it this direction. And I will also make it like a little bit thicker over here. And I think something like this is fine. You can of course just keep continuing until you have a longer part. It just depends what you want. So let me just finish things off with this one. And then last thing, just to add like a little bit of additional flavor, is I'm just gonna make them like a little bit angled, and then I just scale them up a bit and then I push them down again a bit. Just because these parts, like, I feel like just to gamify them a little bit. Of course in real life, unless they are very old, they would be quite perfectly placed. But these are very old, so we can like add a little bit of additional storytelling just by kind of like angling them and pushing them in. There we go. See? And let's have a look in our camera angle. I think that looks fine. Like that gives us a nice bit of stone, but we can still see like a little bit of the ground below it. So we can still work on that. I'm at this point gonna go ahead and probably get rid of my scale references. And now what I want to do is, before I'm going to like basically have a look at my concept and see if there's any final things that I want to add, just very big things. I first of all want to go ahead and just add a post effects, just to like add some additional effects to my scene. So if we go down here to visual effects and add a post process volume. Now with your post process volume, it's basically going to add effects on top of your camera after everything has already been rendered. That's why it's called post. Now with this you can imagine things like color grading, exposures, some lumen settings, stuff like that. But the first thing that we want to do when we create it is scroll down all the way and turn on infinite extent. This means that the post effect is always active no matter where that you are, because you can also make it so that the post effect is only active in like certain areas. Now I'm gonna go to exposure and turn on my exposure compensation, min and max. And whenever I create a blockout, I always like to go ahead and set this to 0 and 0. And the reason for this is because if we don't do that, just to very quickly show you, the exposure will be based on how dark the area around your camera is. So if I go like this, you can see that over here, it's not very dark. And then as soon as I quickly go outside, you can see that the outside is really light. See? It's because it tries to mimic the same effect that we have with our eyes in the real life. However, for a blockout, I want full control. So I'm going to set this to 0 and 0. And then I can use my exposure compensation to, for example, set things a little bit darker. Like 0.8. For your bloom, you can also control your bloom. I like to set this to convolution, which is not a real-time bloom effect, but it's like a really accurate effect. Basically, you have the standard one, which is for games, which will just basically give you a bloom on anything that is bright. However, the convolution one, it actually calculates, based upon your lighting and brightness, it calculates the logical amount of bloom. So you can see that over here, it only adds this bloom very softly on the areas that are truly bright. However, as I said before, this is a little bit more expensive to use. So and you can literally see it, it says too expensive for games. So it's not something for games, but it is something for like a final render. Image effects, you can find the vignetting settings, but I'm happy with what I got now. And over here we have some color grading. I guess the only thing that I want to do in color grading is maybe in the global contrast, to set my contrast a bit sharper. Let's do 1.15 over here. And in my shadows, I like to go to my gamma. And let's see. Sometimes I like to often make my shadows actually like a little bit bluer. Just a tiny bit. Just to kind of like catch the blueness of the sky. Because shadows are never completely black. They always have like a little bit of blue in them. And then maybe what I will do is I will go to my global. And just in my gamma, I will slightly alter here the look of the scene. Just for now. Just so that we have something fancy to look at. Just for fun. Over here by giving it a little bit more red. And I feel like that this looks a bit better. Maybe let's say 1.2 for the contrast. Now let's do 1.15. Okay, so we got that one. And of course later on we are going to redo all of our lighting and all of that stuff. So let's do 0.75 maybe for the exposure. And the last thing is that over here you also have some global illumination settings. Now what you can do is you can already set like the lumen scene lighting to like a higher value, and what this would do is it would improve the quality of your lumen. However, I like to always just like have a look and see if it even makes a difference. In a blockout scene it will never really make a difference. Over here I'm just going to go ahead and in lumen reflections turn on the high quality translucent surfaces already. What this will do is it will improve reflections whenever we have a transparent material. Of course, right now we don't really have a transparent material, but it's good to already turn on. And for the rest, that should be fine. Like, we're not gonna go ahead and make heavy use of ray tracing just yet, I would say. Yeah, probably not. So let's go ahead and leave it like this for our blockout for now. And then the ray tracing stuff and everything, we will dive into that when we actually start doing the final lighting. I would say that for now, this is pretty much fine. Like, this is all we need. Last thing that you can add if you want is you can add some film grain. And with your film grain, although, yeah, this is the correct one. With your film grain, you can add like a little bit more like a cinematic feeling by giving it a little bit of grain. Here, if I set it's really strong, you can see like we can make it look like an old movie. So what we can do is we can go ahead and just set this for now like quite simple. Maybe like 0.25. And you can also go ahead and set the grain texture size to have like bigger grains or smaller ones. So if I set this probably back to 1, I think just in general like this feels quite nice. You can see that Lumen does have a little bit of problems with like the shadows right now, but that's something that we can also go ahead and fix later on. So let's see, 0.25. If I go just to 0, yeah, see, here it adds maybe 0.3. It does add like a little bit of extra to it. I'm gonna go ahead and save my scene. And one last thing that I want to probably add, one or two last things, is one of them is a flag, as I can see over here. This is something I can see quite obvious. And here you can see like a nice, neat little scene. So we actually made it look pretty nice. Of course, there's nothing around it, but it is pretty good. Let's go into our modeling tools and let's just create this flag. Very simple. Let's set the radius to 5. Actually, let's set the radius to like 3. And the flag 200. Let's make it 250 for the pole over here and just accept. Next, what I want to do is I just want to go ahead and duplicate this, and I'm going to go ahead and like slightly rotate it. I'm just following my concept art. You can have a look at the concept art, what this exactly looks like. And then the next one is just going to, let's just make like a simple rectangle over here and just place it right down. I'm going to turn on my snap rotations. And I'm going to go ahead and move this here just to mimic the look of a flag. And let's have a look. Yeah, totally fine for a blockout. I am going to go ahead and just select all of these. And I'm going to press a mesh merge and press accept. Throw on a gray material and go to the pivot and just set the pivot at the bottom over here. And let's see, so I will have one here and I'm going to have another one probably like here because there's a lot of empty space in this area. So let's say the next one over here. And I can just have a look. So one there. I feel like maybe it can be like a little bit bigger. I know that those flags are quite big like this, but just makes sense. And I don't know, do we need like a flag somewhere in this area, or maybe like have it rotated? Nah, I'm just gonna leave it for now. Okay, cool. I think we pretty much covered everything from our concept art. If we have a look, of course we have some small details like up here, but we are not going to do that in a blockout. I'm just going to go ahead and have an extra look around all of my references to see if there's anything, like maybe we want to have like some type of things over here just to make it a little bit more visually interesting. But if we do these type of things, they would be like bonus material. I'm not going to go over on how to create very small details like that after everything else, because then this tutorial would just be way too long. But yeah, all of the metal stuff and everything, that we will add later. Yeah, I think for now we have enough details. So I think the only thing that I want to add is I quite like, let me just check. Yeah. Okay, I think the only thing I want to add is, because I quite like it, is like the bamboo holder type thing. So let's just go ahead and finalize that, and then we are done with our blockout. And I'm just gonna have that like over here. Maybe it would be nice to push this one a bit forward over here. Like this, just to give some space, or would I need to like push it way forward in order to really get the correct effect? Yeah, I feel like I would need to probably push it like quite a bit forward and then move this one back. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and add an additional beam here. There we go. It's just that I have like a place for these metal brackets. So, metal brackets. Just go ahead and create a cube. I'm going to make this super simple. So let's push it in. Make it thinner. We're going to place this quite low, so let's place this somewhere over here. Let's add a gray material. And let's go ahead and go edit poly. And I'm just going to select this. I'm going to insert, if I can, there we go. Oh, let's save my scene because I feel like something was a little bit buggy. Let's try it again. Okay. So yeah, make sure to keep saving your scene. I do have auto saving on, but still I don't trust it completely. I'm going to have this a little bit higher. And then I'm basically just going to go ahead and extrude this. Then I will extrude this once more. And then just pick the top and extrude this one once more. There we go. That should give me enough of a bracket. Oh, and this is way too thick, so let me just go ahead and make this quite a bit thinner. And let's also make this a little bit lower because it's a bit too over the top. But there we go. Awesome. So we have these brackets. I can now go ahead and just duplicate it and place another one here. And then of course for our bamboo, I'm just going to quickly grab like a cylinder. Make it like 7 maybe. Yeah, 7 looks like a nice thickness. Let's move it over here and place it into position. Edit poly, select the end, move that over here. Are we able to place some edge loops? I don't think so because of the way that this is created. There is a way that we can add edge loops by recreating or re-adding our groups and everything, but it's not really worth my time. So what I will do instead is I will just like place 2 of them here and apply a white material. Yeah, I think that will add like some nice additional details. I am just gonna lower it a little bit, but for the rest, it is about done. So let's do this. And let's have a look at our final blockout over here. Okay, awesome. Now, as you can see, like we spent quite a bit of time on the blockout, but I hope that you can understand how important it is to create a blockout. Because else, if we had to figure out all of this, while also creating final models, we would have probably done a lot of wasted work or a lot of additional work that just was not needed. While now we already have a sense of a blockout. We already get like that exciting feeling of like creating a cool environment. Like we already know roughly what we're going to create. And I think that this is a really solid start. So I would say that this was the end of the blockout stages. And let's go ahead and continue on to the next chapters where I will also explain to you exactly which steps we are going to take to turn this environment into the final environment.